Thanks for tuning in to the Unaffiliated Creators Podcast. I'm your host, KA Every Day. This is the Any Yard Safe place, so take off your shoes, get comfortable, and stay a while.
Skip,
Do us a
skip.
favor and please rate the show. And if you have any feedback for us, please email us at unaffiliatedcreators@gmail.com. Now that everybody is taking off their shoes and got comfortable, y'all already know what it is. I got my man with me,
Skip,
PP.
skip.
What you been up to?
Yeah. Chilling, man. Working on music. Working on
Working on
music.
music.
Always chasing a ghost for whatever reason. Trying to get better.
I'm about to start calling you Pac-Man.
Whew.
Always chasing ghosts.
Always chasing ghosts. I like that though. I'm gonna have to use that in one of my raps, yo.
Yeah, see?
Old
Always
man
chasing
raps.
ghosts like Pac-Man. Um, so I did want to take I was gonna say a few minutes, but I don't even want to rush you, man. I really want you to unpack this one. So I know how much Quincy has influenced your music. I know
Absolutely.
he just, rest in peace. He just recently passed away. So I just wanted you to, to take some time and really share with the audience, what his music meant to you and how he's inspired you as an artist, as a music producer, and things like that.
Mm. Whew. Um, wow, where do I begin? Well, I could say that I was a fan before Off the Wall and Thriller, for sure. Um, being a crate digger, having over 3,000 records, um, knowing some of the things that he scored, um, gives me a little bit better context. Him as a musician first, then him as a producer. Um, the people that he influenced and how he was able to engage other musicians to truly cater to what he was hearing was always um, profound to me. And then he had a way of, because of that respect, he was he always ended up working with other profound artists. Just gosh, just the people that he was able to collaborate with was just absolutely insane. And then, when you go back to the blues and the jazz quartets that he was in, then you get into the Frank Sinatra, and you go start going back and venturing. And then in the 70s when he scored Roots, right? So it's like a different, so many different things. And then of course you get to, the early 80s, and then hip hop's Rod Temperton, and they start to work together and then deliver Off the Wall, and then they would eventually go on to uh, get a group of musicians together and put together the greatest album of all time, which is Thriller. And just studying the chords, studying the instruments that they use, studying the recording techniques was absolutely amazing. An amazing journey. I learned a lot. Um, he will be greatly missed. I think it's time for me to, every so often, every 6 months, I try to get by myself and go watch that Netflix documentary and really absorb. And every time I watch it, I watch the same thing, but I see something different every time. And I watched an interview earlier this week, and I'm a Sonic head for real. He was talking about the frequency, 454 hertz, and I was just like, man, that's so heavy. And then he was talking about uh, A major chord, how it opened up the heavens. He said, man, that A chord just opens up the heavens. And I'm a big fan of A major chords, A sharp minor chords. Um, so that spoke to me. From so as I as I transitioned from uh, a beat maker to a producer, like I think every producer's journey is to you first got to learn your craft, and then you got to learn your sound, and then you got to master that sound. But I've been blessed to chart past three genres really. Uh, Going into from starting off in hip hop and sample based music, and didn't know how to play drummer at heart, but really didn't translate on the beat machines at first. Wasn't known for my drums. Always was the idea that I was trying to put down. I might not necessarily got it right, but as I crossed over into producing R&B and learning how to play, um, I was very aggressive, and then learned another style and another way to get the music to where it needed to be. So, and then going from R&B to EDM, whole nother genre. You know, you talk about a lot of F sharp minor chords, um, uh, G. So, you know, you kind of certain genres, certain chords, but when he spoke about the frequency specifically of 454 hertz, just man, that is by far like that's deep, man. That is deep, and that's normally a vocal frequency. Uh, so I still got some more digging to do to find out what he truly meant in that context. So yeah, but when it comes to Quincy Delight Jones Jr., yeah, man, the greatest to ever do it. Period. Point blank. Put a fork in it. We lost uh, a great musician, um, and we were blessed with him for 84 years. He was 84 years old. It's just a coincidence that I just released a song called 84 Thriller not too long ago. Crazy.
Well, I know how you feel about him because not so long ago we did a podcast episode and I specifically asked you to name me your top five music producers of all time, and you could put them in any order. I was kind of trying to make it easy for you because I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you went ahead and decided to put them in order anyway. And of course, the number one spot was for Quincy Jones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason being because he, as a musician, he crossed boundaries from jazz to blues to rock to whatever, disco. It didn't matter. He knew how to compose. That he's a they say a producer's producer. He is the ultimate when it came to that. And if you do the study and understand, um, it's a it's an amazing journey to study that man and what he did in his lifetime. I wish. I mean, he you got to think about it. He didn't Thriller didn't come out till his late 40s. So it wasn't like he had a career, but he didn't become this huge monolith until Thriller came, and then he finally got what was due to him all along, the notoriety of being the GOAT. He's the GOAT to me. Everyone else kind of falls under that. Um, Everybody has their go-to tips, tricks, whatever, but man was just solid. Drop him on any continent, he could give you whatever you were looking for musically. So, man, to know well, he hasn't made music in quite some time, for some years, but to know that the legacy, like Jazzy Jeff said, die empty, creatively, die empty, don't have nothing left. Now I was just like, ooh, that's heavy for Jazzy Jeff to say that. And I, And I look up to him too, because he didn't, what he accomplished was no easy task either. Transitioning from, 80s, 90s hip hop into ushering in a whole new genre. Like, that was crazy. With him kind of breaking the mold with neo soul, and that's crazy. But to Quincy, the GOAT. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I would have to agree with you, and I would say that I actually use that part about him not really getting his big break or what most people would consider his big break until his late 40s. I actually use that as motivation a lot of times for what I'm doing because I be thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, well, if he didn't get his big break until he was in his late 40s, then it just lets you know that it ain't never too late, man. It's just all about just being prepared and in the moment keep grinding. And when your times come, just be ready to seize the moment and take advantage of the moment. But I actually went and looked at the documentary. He probably has more than one, but I already knew that he was very talented in music, but I didn't know that he was involved in so much other stuff until I watched that documentary. Man, he was the GOAT when it came to a lot of other areas besides just what most people know as far as like the stuff he did with Michael Jackson and stuff. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was doing the stuff with, the movies and scoring films and
Yep.
doing like the symphony, all that. Like
Yep.
he really knew all the jazz music and all that. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah. And to anyone, and I'll take this, I hear what you're saying. And to anyone that feels like they haven't made it, um, that's the time when you're waiting, that's that's the time to create infrastructure. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Pretty much. And there's always things that you can be doing to get better. None of us are perfect, so you can always improve, build upon what you have. So, but yeah, Quincy the GOAT, GOAT,
Quincy is the GOAT.
absolutely. Throw
And
everybody else to the side. He is the king, was the king, still will be the king. No one's done what he's done, and he left empty for sure. He left us that. He left us every creative bone in his body for us to go back, study, break it down, study, break it down, and break it down again. It's
yeah,
facts.
I don't think we would have got the Michael Jackson that we got if Quincy Jones didn't have his hands all on that project or on the projects that he did with Michael Jackson. I think he took them projects to a whole nother level. I mean, of course, Michael Jackson is talented, but Quincy definitely you could tell that his influence was all over them projects. So
Well, so the key thing was he knew how to take something raw and polish it. You know, a lot of people don't understand. If you go back and listen to Off the Wall and some of the demos, and you hear Rod Temperton, um, and I want to say this that Rod Temperton was with Heat Wave. Um, so if you go back to Boogie Nights, let's see, this is where it gets real interesting. If you go back to Boogie Nights, the song Boogie Nights, it's a preface to some of the Thriller records. In its chord structure, and I don't know if Rod Temperton was into horror movies, but a lot of the chords are dark and arranged in a way that's more like a horror film. And if you listen to the demos, you start to see, like when you go to Off the Wall and you start listening to some of the records and really close your eyes and just listen, you'll start to see those influences from Boogie Nights, in particularly the intro to Boogie Nights. That Boogie Nights, whoa. And then it's an offbeat drop in that's very you know, is whoa, boogie nights, dun, 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 dun. Um, which gives you a hint of Funky Town. Dun, 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 dun. Funky Town. Dun, 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 dun. Um, but it's kind of like the transition and the chord structure that he used in that intro uh, uh, goes very close to the intro, the album intro to Thriller. Well, not well, the actual song Thriller, the long, the extended edition. Um, it was that was something that struck me that when I did a record called College Park, I channeled that energy to do that. Um, and that's the beauty of listening to old records. You know, you don't get you stay away from some of this trendy stuff and really can study and pick apart the masters and learn something that you can actually deploy and really stand out because they don't make records like that no more. That um that era of making records is pretty much gone.
Yeah, the live instrumentation. I mean, the only group that I can think of that's kind of been out since we were really listening to music is the Roots.
Yeah. Um. So I mean, and then tonight, uh, it's funny how things work. Yeah, I sent you the MKG records, which was uh sonically to have that discussion. Um, I'm able to hear immediately where the influences are, you know. And then this last record with him just performing on SNL last night, and I had never heard of the gentleman until today when I was just watching some previous SNL skits. But what you have is a jazz musician, clearly from his first EP. He is a more of a jazz orientated guitar player. And then they somehow figured out a sonic, which as I get into this on the Batch Addicts um, podcast and discussions, diving deeper into uh, they took a jazz musician, locked him in a room and gave him some old Prince records, and he came back with something beautiful. Like I, to sound like Prince with a Kurt Cobain, Nirvana feel to it and look to it, aesthetic, an appearance aesthetic, and a vocal cadence, but with ad libs like Prince, and the record sounding like they were fresh out of Minneapolis, 1979 through 1982, is absolutely amazing to me, and it speaks to when you study sonics and understand that you know we borrow from everyone, and you just got to do your homework. And my hat is off to that young man. I think he's going to do very, very well. I think we're going to hear a lot more things from MKG.
Well, we got a few more minutes before we got to get out of here. But speaking of Quincy and how he's influenced you, and I only know this because hey, man, you my right hand man, and you shared this with me. But since we talking about projects and you kind of mentioned '84 Thriller, why don't you take a few minutes and talk to us about the instrumental that you recorded that's basically about Quincy Jones?
Yeah, so I did a record yesterday, and it's called Quincy. It's an interlude to the actual song '84 Thriller, and I just took a minute, it's quick interludes, not like a minute and a half, um, but just really trying to grab the essence of what has transpired this week, and speak in the light of Quincy's power, very briefly, in a more poetic way, and that was the goal. And the record came very very quickly. It was 20 minutes, and the record was looping, and I was like, wow, like this is something um, really really special, and I didn't know, and it was just, and then I looked at the chords, I was like, oh, A major, that's why. Um, and then that I had that going, but then further into it, it had a Prince like intro, then went into the skit, and I was thinking about being more musical at the end in the arrangement. That I would fill the chords up on the back end, with piano and strings, and a soft whiny polysynth. So it was something I was thinking about, and I got to wait till I get the record back, from Jack. Once he gives me the record back, then I can go in and I can fully produce the record. Because a lot of times when I'm working, I'm just really trying to get the idea out, and then out to the whoever I'm collaborating with, so I can get the record back, and then I'll sit down and I'll fully produce the record from start to finish.
And the interlude's hot, and I mean y'all won't have to take my word for it, because at some point, he gonna put it out for public consumption, so y'all can,
Yeah,
what I'm saying, listen to it for yourselves. But when he shot it to me, I had to call him back and I had to ask the question. I was like, did you just come up with this because Quincy just passed away, or is this something that you had been working on for a while? Because I just know how you felt about him and his influence on music, and you let me know that you had just basically wrote it because he passed away. So I was like, wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes when you're working on records, and it's 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 an emotional thing. Like sometimes if I could tell anybody anything, sometimes I'll sit on a record. I sat on 84 Thriller a whole year. I was ready to, I was done with it a year ago, but in light of, I felt like sonically I wasn't there, uh, mixing and mastering. Um, I wanted to spend some more time and lock in with that. Um, but sometimes you just sit on a record until it's ready to, till you're ready to release it out of your hand, and that was that record. So to any young person, sometimes you just got to sit with a record, and then other times, like yesterday, Quincy, the record came to me in 20 minutes. Hour later, I sent it out to the collaborator, to Jack, and you were copied on that email, and it was just like, boom, here it is, here's the record. Um, so you never know. Some records come quick, some records take time. It's just, you got to be on the pulse of what you're feeling, and how to execute when you're feeling it. When I'm writing records, it's I could write 3 records back to back, hip hop or R&B. It doesn't really matter to me, because I'm just, I love the challenge of writing. It's just something I like. I like to write. So
And I'm probably showing my age a little bit, but it actually reminded me of a song. Sometime I rhyme slow, sometime I rhyme quick.
yeah. You telling on yourself now.
Hey
Definitely
man,
telling
they don't
yourself.
make up like that no more.
No, you're right about that. But also, um, young people, like, I like what they do too. Like I really, I understand from a cadence standpoint. Sometimes I'm a little thrown back. I'm not. I'm gonna be transparent, but the vibe of the record, like sometimes it's the vibe of the record that gives, that catches people, and never lose that. That's what Quincy always said. Never lose that. Never, don't lose that. And melody is from the heavens. There's nothing you can't can't manufacture that. That's just what you're hearing in your head and the melodies that come out. But the first instinct's always the best instinct in my book. Even when I lay a cadence down, I try to lay the best part of it first, because I know that that's the instinct, the pulse that I want to be on.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point, but I think a lot of these well, I don't necessarily want to call them kids because they probably technically adults, but a lot of this music these days, I understand that it's a vibe and the melody is very important, but I think they must don't have the ear or they must can't hear what the melody should be because they be singing something else. I'm like, did they hear what note they were supposed to be singing? I get it's a vibe, but I mean, I don't
I
know.
mean, sometimes you have artists that don't play the perfect notes, and sometimes that's intentional. That's the beauty in the art. There are no rules, um, because they don't want the music to sound too perfect. Sometimes we concentrate on trying to make it too perfect and miss the beauty in the imperfections, which makes it special. So yeah,
Hmm. So maybe
drop the
that's
gem.
what Silk the Shocker was doing back in the day when we never understood why he could never he was trying to make it imperfect.
Right, right,
My
right, right,
bad, man. Maybe he
right,
was ahead of his time. I didn't understand.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, like I was saying, you know, there's so many things for artists to take control of now that, you know, you got to wear a lot of hats. You see these bags under my eyes, I'm tired. I be in this office slaving, trying to get it done, trying to get it done, trying to get ahead of the curve. You know, finally just got word that the 84 Thriller just hit all platforms. Now I got to work the record. Now I got to get into my disrupt strategy and figure out how I'm gonna get in there and really bring awareness to the record and die empty. I'm not gonna hold on to music. I'm gonna let it go. I did go. Oh, and Dochi, yeah, she dope. She really, really dope. I know we was having that
Yeah.
offline discussion, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely dope. And I always like discovering new young artists too, like that MKG. Yo, kid's dope. It's dope. It's dope. Um, how will it translate over to the urban side? I'm not sure. And but I know that some of my older brothers and sisters in our fellow tribes will hear the 70s and 80s soft rock influence, and then they will hear the Minneapolis sound in what he's doing. And the nostalgic aesthetic that they put him in will make them relive their childhood while embarking on the new generation to, fashion comes back and around. And that's a whole nother discussion, but, you know,
Hey man,
I'm liking what I hear.
I gotta let you know this before we get out of here. Even though you've been doing this music thing for a long time, man, you just now start recording some new music, so you gonna have to get back out there and hit the trail like you a new artist.
Well,
Hey, you done jump right back in the game now. So hey, you might as well look at yourself as a new artist, man. You starting all over again.
yeah, and that's good. But the business model ain't my business model's changed for sure. Um, so that's all baked into the strategy. Um, but the art, I'm always, art comes first. I don't care about timelines. I care about the art first. That's why I'm trying to finish the art. And when it's ready, it's ready. Then I release it. Um,
When
Not
it's
trying to hold on.
ready, it's ready. Now I will say the artwork for 84 Thrill again, boys and girls. Y'all don't have to take my word for it. Whenever, like you said, he didn't release it to the world, y'all go find it for yourself. That artwork's crazy.
Yeah,
But I don't want
that
y'all to take my word for it. Y'all go see yourself.
well, that was a dig. That was a chamber. As an art, as an illustrator, the challenge is to, you know, that's another hat that you got to wear. Um, it's I've been one thing I've one thing the gifts that God's given me. Um, I and to be perfectly honest, he's given me more gifts than a lot of people. Um, and I'm just trying to manifest and do right by those gifts that he gave me. So just always in the mix, always in the chamber,
Yeah, I just
always
gave you a
chasing
round of
dough.
applause for all the gifts, man. Thank you, God, for all the gifts.
So, but I don't think you'll see me on stage, even though I went and ran about 5 miles
Hey,
today.
hey, it ain't never too late. Like we were talking about earlier, Quincy didn't jump out there, till he was in his late 40s, cuz you got one more stage in you, man. You got one or two more stages in you, man.
I don't know if I got that, but what I do got when I come out, I'm gonna have plenty of hoodies and albums and
Plenty of
everything.
merch, huh?
Plenty of merch,
Plenty of
plenty.
ways to be disruptive.
Yeah, plenty of ways. That is the new model. Every artist should, like we said, people need to look into that and understand.
Well, I just gave you some air horns for finding ways of being disruptive, but this thing about to cut us off. You know, man, when we having too much fun, it always want to cut us off, man.
I
But
got
I
you.
do want to appreciate you taking time to come on the podcast today. And me and you gonna be doing an in-person interview real soon, cause we gotta sit down and talk about this new project that you about to drop. But until then,
Two
y'all be
projects
good.
actually. You got Spartan Market Baby and you got Analog Hearts. I think Analog Hearts will probably drop first, and SMB will Spartan Market Baby will drop right after that. Trying to get Analog Hearts out before the holiday. Um, that's the goal. So I'll be mixing and mastering tomorrow, trying to
All
finish up.
right. Well, y'all heard it, man. He about to drop two projects, so I'm gonna hold him to it. And like I said, I'm gonna be doing these in-person interviews with him, so I gotta hold his feet to the fire. So until then, y'all be good and stay safe.
Ciao.